Hey, practice owners, welcome back to another in our Coming Back Stronger series. Our guest today, I'm very excited to have on. Really honored and thrilled he could squeeze a few minutes out of his busy schedule. You'll recognize Fred Joyal from a little company called 800 Dentist. One of my favorite books here, Everything is Marketing. And Fred, you've got a newer book than this?
Yeah, Becoming Remarkable, how to create a dental practice everyone talks about.
Well, and you've, so you kind of became I think you brought the idea of marketing to dentistry, which is a profession that, they needed to market, but didn't really understand what that meant. I think it used to mean putting a big Mylar sign on the side of the office that said, free whitening if you got crazy. Otherwise, dentists now accepting new patients. And you were very instrumental in amping that up over the years.
Yeah, and it became much more refined, and now it's much more multifaceted with the online world. So,
and it has to be. I think that's one of the things we talked about before is in the context of this is to come back stronger, because we're going to be back, and I hope most people who are listening, most of the docs, who are 86% of who are the practice owner, use this time wisely, and this is one of the ways to use it. And I appreciate you sharing. So we were talking earlier, things that will be different when we come back. We have to learn to adapt. And if you're sitting at home right now, things you can work on. And one of the things you mentioned to me was the patient experience. What do you mean by the patient experience? How does it, what is it today? And, how's it going to change?
But patient experience is always very much a part of case acceptance. Mm-hmm. And it's how that person feels about the practice. And there's, dozens of little cues. And, the point of Everything is Marketing is that everything in the practice either increases or decreases case acceptance. Nothing is neutral. And that's just as true now, but there's new factors that are going to be imposed on us in practices. And one of those big things is patient safety. They've always felt fairly vulnerable about letting somebody into their mouth. But that's going to be much more amplified now. And it's for a practice, it's really got two sides to it. Your team needs to feel safe, and your patients need to feel safe. And that means some of the things that you're going to do, and I'll certainly talk about specifics of those. But and let's just a perfect example of a marketing thing. People are going to have masks on all the time, maybe even at reception, right? You're either going to have a plastic shield like you're at the grocery store or between people, or the person's going to have a mask on. The really clever practices are already getting into designing masks, okay, with a smile expression. There was a thing that happened years ago in Thailand where the motorcycle cops, because the air was so polluted, started wearing masks. Mm-hmm. And the Thai people found it very threatening that the cops had masks on, right? So they put a smile on them. That's all they did. And it changed. And you look at them, you look at pictures of them, and it changes everything. I mean, we look at animation like it's real, right? We all watch animated, we read cartoons. That works for our brain. That's marketing. That's saying you're safe, but relax, okay? Two very important things to combine in a dental practice. So you're going to be doing all sorts of things to relax the patient as they come through the door. Mm-hmm. And even before that, as they go to your website, as they go to your social media. What are they going to see? What's the story you're going to tell? You're going to basically, this is the message. We are probably the safest place you will go to all year. Mm-hmm. Because of the equipment that we have, the sterilization systems that we've already had in place, and now we're upping the ante to protect you and ourselves, but really to protect you. And there's a whole bunch of things that dentists are going to be able to do. List those things. We did a study. I'm talking in an unbroken stream because
You're good. Keep it coming.
I'm so focused on this because we did a 800 dentists years ago. We did a study of what mattered to people most in a dental practice when picking a dental practice, a new practice, and number 4 was cleanliness. People don't talk about it that much, but it matters to them. And so here's our chance to say, look, we've already had plastic all over everything. We've been wearing gloves and masks and shields. We autoclave everything between every patient. All of this stuff, we have had these systems in place for 20 years. And now we have even more. There's going to be dentists who are actually using hydrofluoric acid to create a fog that the team can walk through in between patients. And in 20 seconds, it kills everything. Now, wouldn't you want to know that as a patient? So what do? You make a video about that. And that goes on Facebook. That goes in your Yelp and Google profiles. That goes on your website. And people go, oh, this is what I'm looking for. And of course, you email it to all your patients because some of them are going to hesitate to come back right away, Right. So you want the marketing of your practice is going to be so much about getting this message out that you need to take care of your teeth, and we're a safe, it is safe to come here. The other side of that message, so critical, is if there's anything we've learned, it's what's protecting people right now is a strong immune system, right?
Right.
The difference between being in the hospital or being sick for 3 days is your immune system right now, in general, but certainly with this intense virus. And so we can really capitalize on this. Like, if you don't have a healthy mouth, you don't have a healthy body. Your immune system is operating at 20% less efficiency or more. Unhealthy gums, things like that your body has to work to repair. Something else comes in. Now the body goes like, I'm busy. Right? I don't have reserves for this. And now you're really sick. So we can use the safety message and we are the cornerstone of your immune system as 2 really powerful marketing messages right now.
If a practice owner hasn't, somebody watching, and they've read articles on oral systemic health and, the mouth body connection, and they get it, up here, and they'll get around to it. Do you see that as a thing? Do you see this as an opportunity to say, listen, now's the time? And we're in a world of supply and demand. It's one thing if, we think the patients want it, but the patients don't want it. It really doesn't matter how much CE or time we put into it. They're still not buying. But this may be a good time for that. I mean, cleanliness might have moved from number 4 to number 1. And so you think this is a good time to sort of add that to your product mix, and
it's because the entire healthcare and news system has greased the rails for this, basically.
Right.
They have made this message the number 1 thing that people are talking about. We're passing people and spreading out as we walk along. Somebody coughs and 5 people jump 5 feet away. It's a whole different consciousness. And as they say, in every situation, there are opportunities. This is our opportunity to elevate dentistry to a proper level in people's consciousness in terms of its value for their overall health, because we don't have to do all the heavy lifting ourselves anymore. And we don't have to worry about the I could care less factor, or that's not important. I'm not sick. My teeth look fine. I feel fine. My gums should bleed when I floss. That's why I don't floss. You know, it's like that sort of mentality. That's going to go away. You say, guess what? You really want your gums bleeding? You want open tissue in your mouth for viruses to get into your bloodstream? Because I think you understand how it works now, don't you? You know?
And that's a whole different mindset. You know, I was talking to somebody about, you know, Google terms, and dental aerosols have gone from, you know, I would defy you to find anybody who didn't go to dental school or hygiene school 8 weeks ago to even know what a dental aerosol really is. Today, it's cranking up. Your patients know about that. I mean, they know those things. They understand how viruses are transmitted. They understand how long it lives on your operatory counter, and how long it lives on the leather in the chair, and how long it lives on that notice you taped up on the cabinet, you know, 6 years ago and put some sticky notes on. They're sitting in the chair thinking that, and you're thinking, oh, thank goodness we're getting back to business, and you know, you don't see them. So is that messaging different? Is that you know, I've heard people say, don't say, hey, we're gonna, you know, we've implemented this infection control. Start off by saying, I think you said it earlier, we've always had this. You know what that little plastic on the light is for? That's infection control.
Have you noticed we've had gloves on and a mask and all that already? It's because we are about controlling any sort of contamination. We sterilize everything, and we have safety systems in place, and we've just added to them. We were already the safest place you could go, but now we're even safer. You know, and I'm gonna remind doctors of things that they should be thinking about in terms of what's going to matter to people. Like, if you've always had 6 or 7 people in the reception area, they're not going to want to do that anymore. Not right away. Eventually people won't care. Eventually we'll go to movie theaters and restaurants and Broadway shows and everything. But I'm not going to predict that that's in 3 months. I don't think that's true, you know, but I could be wrong by a month or 10, but it's going to be gradual, you know. So what's your reception area going to be set up like? Are you going to, you can even use, I know dentists, for example, that are going to say, look, if you don't mind, we're going to have you wait in your car, and we're going to call you when you can come right in. Okay. I know dentists that are thinking about how they can curb deliver things. You're just coming to pick up your dentures, we'll bring them out. Now they don't have to reset an entire room in the practice. They just hand them to the patient. I know dentists are even saying, I'm going to use a Nomad and go do an x-ray in their car, you know, because I'll have a leather shield, a lead shield on, and I'll do the x-ray. And then, you know, because if that may be all I have to do right then, don't have them come in the office if they feel safer doing it. So it's like, this is the mentality. It's like, how can I do something different that the patient goes, ooh, I like this. It's a little bit safer, you know? And again, it's the little things. Your office furniture, your reception furniture. Is it upholstered? Most likely. Guess what? Right. Really hard to clean.
Yep. So
you're probably going to have to replace it with wooden or plastic or some material that can be cleaned, the surface that anybody looks at and says they could clean this 10 times a day if they wanted to.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
they'll know you're not wiping down a cloth or and I don't know my materials, but burlap's wrong, but a heavy, you know, really nice looking fashionable material. Looks great in the reception area, but the first thing in a lot of people's minds are going to be, they can't be wiping that down.
Yeah, and there's no reason to have books and magazines out because nobody read. They're going to be on their phone anyway. Right. So every surface should be clear and cleanable. Simple stuff, but big time. And of course, obviously, hand sanitizer right out there for when they come up and stuff like that. A lot of practices are not even taking cash. They're finding a way to not take cash because nobody wants to touch money. In my supermarket, there's 1 lane for cash and 4 lanes for credit cards. They don't want the clerks to have to touch money.
You know, I've had a number of people tell me that they feel like, you know, a lot of industries have gone paperless, and they feel like dentistry will go paperless. And so I had this conversation with a few weeks ago, and I had a doc who said, "Oh, we already do that." And I said, "Well, how do you do it?" And they say, "Well, we take everything that they give us, you know, their intake form, and we scan that into the computer, and then it goes into their patient record." Well, that's not paperless. That's just, you know, in fact, that's probably more wasteful. You know, you created a piece of paper, you only needed for 10 minutes and then threw it away.
Yeah.
So the messaging there is probably pretty powerful. You know, here's one way we're eliminating the possibility of transferring. We don't have paper. We don't take cash. So we don't need a pen on the counter that you pick up and wonder how many people picked this up today. And I don't know that and you tell me your thoughts on this. I don't know that it's the virus that makes these things evolve. I think it's more that they work for both sides. They're probably a better idea anyway. Going paperless is a lot more efficient workflow, but we really fought it for 10 years just because changing is too hard.
Easy
Now's
to do.
the time.
Right. But, you know, I know a bunch of practice that went, let's do it right now. We're closed. Who wants to come in? Right? And grind away at this paperwork, and we'll keep 6 feet apart, and we'll be paperless by the time we see our first patient.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, and it just as an aside, I've talked to doctors because we've talked a lot about this new practice, because to me, the impression you create with this new practice, but get some practice putting on this stuff, right? I talked to a dentist and he said, you know, I started seeing patients because some places they're starting, and he says, but I put everything all on, and I put it on wrong, and I was starting to fog up my loops. And he says, and I stuck myself. And he says, and it freaked me out. He says, I went into a cold sweat. He said, I was so used to all of the steps that I've done for 20 years that this new series of adaptations, I hadn't figured out what order to put stuff on. And he says, it really disoriented me. So you got to practice this stuff before you start bringing patients in. Most practices I know, they're having at least 2 days of run-throughs before they bring patients in. Because you don't want the patient, anxious doctor, very bad marketing.
Right. They're also, I've talked to some people who said, you know, they've realized, so, and again, the guidance is all over the place right now. So, and I wanted to bring that up earlier. I think that's a good message. If you're sitting around waiting to get something from the CDC that says this is how PPEs are going to work, you know, you're not going to get that for a while. But I've heard docs say they're going to see like 3 patients at a time without leaving the room, or, you know, all these different protocols and procedures where, you know, they're not transferring from one patient to another, or they're changing everything between each patient at a time. And, you know, just sort of your thoughts on, let me phrase it this way. I think a lot of docs want to say, this is what we're going to do from now on. And that's probably not the message. The message is we're doing the maximum we think we have to do right now. And as we learn more and we adapt, you know, we'll adapt to that, but make sure you're communicating that to the patient. Is that a better message than feeling like I have all the answers right now?
If you know, if we plateau and we start to decline, we still don't have a vaccine. The virus isn't gone. So what we've done is we've adapted our behavior to not contaminate things and communicate this disease to other people. So we're going to have to keep doing things maybe for 2 years, and we may say this is just the best way to do this all around, or we can eliminate 1 or 2 of these things. And also doctors, this is another point, and I'm not in the whole marketing thing, but right now it's everything. It falls in. Don't be afraid to charge for this stuff, to have a PPE charge that you add to it. $25 a visit, 15, whatever the heck it is. People are willing to pay it, now more than ever. They're going to understand. Just, like it happens all the time during a crisis. There's a increase in the gas tax. Well, guess what? Never goes away, right? But this is a time where you say, because we have to do this, we're going to have to charge. We're going to charge a little bit extra, and you may or may not be able to get away with it with the insurance plans or whatever. But for most patients, you can just say, look, we have to do this. Mm-hmm. Because you're going to have more expenses and your schedule is going to change. You're going to leave gaps in your schedule to switch rooms, whereas before it was, all this traffic. You want to control the flow of people and the crisscross of people. And so, again, goes back to practice. But the other thing that they should be thinking about is what do their marketing materials look like? What is their website look like? What is their the Facebook page look like? Because now's the time to update all of that stuff, because you should be updating some of the message, but hey, half the websites I see from dentists are, in my mind, unacceptable. They are not good promotion of the practice. They do not present well. And guess what? Everybody's going to be checking stuff more and more online. We're living on our screens right now. Everything that we're doing research, you have to have some people are never going to go in the grocery store again because they get Instacart. It's like, this is fabulous. I hated going to the grocery store. I'm gonna just keep having stuff sent here forever. Mm-hmm. So, it's the online move is going to be bigger, and we have to be catering to that. Websites should be having the schedule available, eventually be able to make and change appointments right there on the website. It's got to look really modern. It should have a chat bot on it that's live, that somebody's going to talk to them. It's not a bot, it's live chat. Those things will matter more than ever, because that's what we've all learned to use. We're all learning this new stuff, right? You and I are forced to learn. We're like Zoom experts all of a sudden, right? Right. Whereas before we used to do meetings where we'd spend the first 15 minutes getting everybody on, right? Now we're like, we got all the bells and whistles. It's the same thing. And a lot of it is because everywhere we go, there's a little chat bot that comes up and we can ask them questions and say, how the heck does this happen? Mm-hmm. So those things are going to matter. What does your social media look like? If I were a doctor, my Facebook, the panoramic picture would be the whole team with masks, decorated masks, big smile on them, but it's like, we're here for you, okay? If you haven't gotten professional photography done, get it done now. Get it done with the team, get it done with the doctor. I know it's hard to get a haircut, but but at least shave. A lot of guys would stop shaving altogether.
That's genius. You don't have to tell, you don't have to say, hey, patients or prospects, we care and, we wear masks. In a split second, they know you do. And connect. So I had a quick question for you. You said like Facebook. Everybody, and Facebook is, I don't even know the numbers now. It's off the chart. The second fastest growing thing after Zoom is Facebook. We're spending more time on it. For a doctor who has heard about it, and I'll tell you this, Fred. I've actually had a doctor and I said, do you use Facebook, for your practice? And he said, I don't use that. That's all that's good for is figuring out what your old high school girlfriend's doing. And I think there is some of that mentality still. And if that's
the mentality, it's so far from the facts, it's ridiculous.
Yeah, that's where, 65% of patients before this were finding their new dentist online. I think it goes up from there. But so if I'm, if I finally, that message gets through and I say, all right, I'm a 50-ish, 55-year-old practice owner. I know I should use Facebook. And I read somewhere, Fred Joyal said I should be doing videos. And they finally get over that hump. How about some advice on to do video, using video as a doc now and going forward to get that message out on something like Facebook?
I mean, you have to get, there's an adept at it, and it's not hard because Facebook works fine shot with a phone. Okay. And you have to remember that if you don't like it, you just delete it. Nobody saw it in the 30 seconds after you posted it. Just like, no good. Do it again. You get multiple shots at it, and you can save it on Facebook. If you're smart, Facebook doesn't want. Facebook hides that little button where you can keep it on your phone, because as soon as you upload it, it'll disappear from your phone if you don't save it to your phone. But now you've got this video. Now you can take it and edit it. You can put it on YouTube. You can put on your website. All of those things can be done with that video that you shot. Or you can shoot a professional video when you do the photography. So you go do professional. It's the same camera, These high-end digital cameras are video cameras or still cameras. It's the same technology. So and it's the same people. You bring in a photographer. He's a videographer. He says, "Great, I'll set the lights up. What do you want to say?" And you get a little iPad that runs a little teleprompter. It's the easiest thing in the world. To just and you just do it till you're comfortable. Or you just say some things and he cuts it together in 2 or 3 slices. They shouldn't be long. They should be, and if he's got footage of the practice at the same time, he's got things to cut away from. So if you do 3 or 4 takes and you said some things right in each one, he's going to edit that together with intercuts of the team walking through or showing the sterilization room or the lab, or you putting, plastic over the lights and everything. And so that is so important to get done. That is inexpensive marketing. If you're spending $1,000, $1,500, $2,000 to get all that done, that is worth every penny. You're going to get, that's one happy patient, that suddenly decides to accept treatment because they were never coming to you, or they were never coming to you with an open mind. They just wanted a prophy and a quick exit.
Right.
And that's the next thing to think about is what are they going to be looking for right now? We have to be prepared, just like in 2008 when people stopped doing cosmetics because they couldn't borrow against their house to do it. There's going to be a whole bunch of people whose spending habits have radically changed, because we were at essentially 0 unemployment 2 months ago.
Right.
Guess what? That's not true now. We'll be at 10, maybe 15, for a while. And sure, they're getting paid, but people are going to be thinking differently about how they spend money. Now, to me, there's an opportunity here. Why not invest in your health? Why not invest in your appearance? This is a great time to be thinking about Invisalign and cosmetics. But how many people are going to be doing that? You don't expect them to come flying into your office. You may have to downshift to bread and butter dentistry for 3 to 6 months and watch it trickle back. And like all marketing, it's neighborhood by neighborhood. If you got more blue collar people, some of them kept their jobs and a lot of them lost their businesses, or the businesses they worked for. In New York, they say they think 75% of the restaurants won't reopen.
Wow, 75?
75. That's
I've heard some big numbers, 15 or 20, and I could see that.
Yeah, I mean, not the chains, but so you exclude the franchises, but the independent restaurants. They think a lot of them month to month, and they can't put the team back together. You know, the people have just disappeared, or they're so far behind in the rent that they can't catch up. They weren't that profitable, and they're not going to be profitable at 25% seating,
Right.
which is how they're talking about everybody coming back, right? So we're going to watch every industry and every job have it come back at a different pace. We have to be prepared for that. We have to be prepared actually for a surge in dentistry in the practice, for the backlog,
Right.
possibly followed by a lull. Like that first month or two back could be really busy, and then it's like, oh, and everybody's like, all right, I'm caught up with that. Now I'm, the people who are anxious about not getting the work finished, or the people who were due for a prophy in February who got canceled, now they're like, I want to get my teeth cleaned. But your hygienists are going to be working like crazy. And is she going to be able to do 8 people a day? Are you going to be profitable if you do overtime, for everybody, so, and then 3 months later, you're back in a lull. So you need a long-term strategy for this, starting with a short term. Like, how do I come back smart, be prepared, create the right message for my patients, update all of my marketing so that I'm ready to go, and then adapt, flex. Adaptability is going to be the life skill of the future. And this has been a hard lesson in exactly that. It is, I know way too many dentists who are absolutely paralyzed by this.
Mm-hmm.
And they're waiting for somebody to tell them, whether it's the CDC or the ADA or something, tell them what to do. And it's hard to have guidance. This is a great time to have good practice coaching, people with resources, and I'm working on 2 projects. I'm working with this dentist. We're putting together a certification program for practices so that they can say, we meet all of these standards that are way beyond the CDC and ADA and stuff like that.
Okay.
And so we'll actually certify the practices. They'll be able to say on their website what this means. They'll have a badge and stuff like that. The equivalent in some ways of a good housekeeping seal of approval, but it's more of a health and sterilization. You don't want to call it patient sterilization because that just doesn't sound right. It sounds like you're doing vasectomies.
Right.
But,
that's exactly.
Yeah,
I know, and that's how marketing works, isn't it?
I didn't have that domain, right? No, it's so I'm working on that, and I'm also with a select group of practices that are I know practices who have $100,000 a year marketing budget. They went to zero essentially in March, right? Because like, what the heck am I going to spend it on? I'm analyzing individual practices. I'm diving deep, and if they're spending enough, I'm going in and looking at everything they've done, because everybody was on such a roll. It's like, I talked to a doctor, $400,000 a year marketing budget. Okay, now he's got $6.5 million revenue in his practice, so it's an appropriate spend. But I kept asking basic questions about, how many new patients are coming from here, or, what are you spending on this channel and that? He couldn't answer.
Right.
Because it's just like, throw money and get patients, and I think it's all working, right? And when you're rolling, you don't have to check everything. You probably should, but you can get away with it. Right. So I'm going in and I'm doing a deep dive on what's working, what's not, what they need to fix, what channels, and help and guide them to a proper ramp up. So that's where I'm spending my time, because I think that certification is going to be necessary for consumers to be able to say, what does that mean? Oh, that means this. That means this is a higher standard. I'm going to add one more tip. That's marketing.
All right.
Technology. Okay. What technology gets that patient out of the office faster?
Okay.
Shorter time, shorter number of visits. CAD CAM, number one,
Hmm.
right? If you're working for Dentsply Sirona or somebody like that, and you can't sell CAD CAM in the next month, you're not trying.
Mm-hmm.
Because this basically, when you can tell a patient, guess what? I bought all this technology, so you're only here once. Yes, that's what I'm talking about.
Okay.
Once is half the exposure to this practice, right? Even though it's completely safe, even safer is zero exposure, right? So get them out using lasers, whatever technology can speed up that process and eliminate visits with the patient. Teledentistry you can see an emergency patient and figure out, triage them right there on the phone, and see if you need to do something with them right now, or you just need to call in a script. You say, look, there's no reason to come to the office. You need to take antibiotics for 3 days, right? Or you just chipped a tooth. You don't have to come in at 10 o'clock at night. We'll get to it tomorrow or the next day. There's no exposed root, whatever. Or there is an exposed root. Swing by the ATM and meet me in my office. Better yet, I'm going to charge you. If you're using the right teledentistry system, you charge them right there.
Mm-hmm.
The system, there's great systems out there right now. I think that telehealth is going to become a permanent part of dentistry as well as medicine.
Oh, I do too.
I had doctors go, "Oh, you have to see the patient." It's like,
no. I had
100 dentists that I know that are seeing 30% less emergencies and getting paid for it.
Right. And I think that's a great point. I had my first telemed visit a few weeks ago, and during this, so the phone rings, and I saw it's my doctor's office. Been there, I don't know, 20 years, and it was my annual prescription re-up. And it's 3 minutes and 5 questions. Has anything changed? And what is this? What is this? What is? Okay, we're good. But I thought that's, they were going to cancel my appointment. And instead she said, would you like to see the doctor through, telemedicine, or you phrased it differently, but I said, sure. She said, I'm going to send you a text, click that link at the time of your appointment, and, Shazam, there you are. Fred, we were done in 3 minutes. And I said, Doc, and I've known the guy for years, and not only that, but at the end he says, and you want me to send this script? It was just a renewal, an annual renewal, but Rule 52B or whatever says, he's got to see me once a year. So he did see me, and he says, do you want it to come to your house? I can click this button, and it'll mail the prescription to you. 48 hours later, it showed up in the mailbox. Now. And I called him back and I said, I've been thinking about this, for dentistry in my industry. I said, you saved me 2.5 to 3 hours and a trip. I popped it up. It was on Zoom, and he said, well, and I asked him, how long you been doing it? And he said, I started yesterday. And he said, but here's what I figured out. He said, I fought this for years because I thought the same thing. Oh, I got to see the patient, and I need to do this, and I need to do that. He said, I can see 25 patients just like you in a morning. It really is a 3-minute visit. And he said, so now what we're going to do is on Tuesdays and Wednesdays, that's what we're going to do in the morning, just those things. And then everything else is, making people sit in the reception area and wait. I don't know what it looks like, 5 years from now, but there are elements in dentistry that are just like that are better for both sides. And we've just struggled to figure it out. When I think right now, we're just going to start doing something and figure it out as we go. We're making short-term decisions for a short-term situation. Not, we don't have to figure it out now before we start. And so I agree. I think telemedicine is certainly a part of it. And the docs who promote that suddenly have patients who say, yeah, I'd love to be able to have a consult or I don't know what it is, but there are plenty of things they can do without going to the office.
Right. And then think about it, just one last marketing thought that relates specifically to teledentistry. One of the number one things the number one thing you could do with the patient is an evening check-in. Imagine if that's done with telehealth. You got a $30,000, $40,000 implant case. Now you do it by video, and you're going, open up. Let me see what's going on, at 9 o'clock at night now that they're home. And they go, oh, I bit my tongue. It's like, let me see. Okay, yeah, my I warned you about this, right? You didn't have teeth there before.
Right.
The tongue's looking all around, trying to figure out what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
Think of we all know the difference between a phone call and a FaceTime call. It's
Mm-hmm.
night and day.
Yeah.
Think about that evening check-in that's audio visual, that difference.
And
That's the kind of difference we can make in dentistry if we adapt.
yeah.
Powerful marketing things that make the patients trust us, promote us, tell people about us. That's what the word remarkable I use in my book is. I want people, they can't resist talking about you in a positive way because they're going to do it online.
Think about that. Just my telemed visit, how many people I would tell and say, that's amazing. Here's what Dr. Mike does. And somebody who says, well, that's kind of cool. I mean, it is. It kind of gets that. So you turn something that might have been clunky for you to begin with into an advantage in your business. So
Yeah.
Awesome. So Fred, as we get close to the end here, and there's a lot of meat, and I appreciate all this. I've made a ton of notes, and I would suspect anybody watching is just the same. Sort of parting thoughts, your overall, for a practice owner who's stuck, struggling, really wants to get back and see patients, can't, figured out they own the darn practice and only they can make these decisions, and they're the leader and the team follows them. They're sort of struggling a little bit right now. Anything you can sort of help them see the end and get them through that?
Yeah, just know that they're looking for your confidence.
Okay.
As of the leader right now, and you may have to be comfortable saying, I don't know what we're going to do, but I'm going to make a decision right long term, but I'm going to make a decision about what we're going to do right now. And over communicate with the team on a daily basis, on a strategizing thing. Understand that positivity is an infectious, more infectious than COVID, and that you need to, as a leader, confidence and positivity will make a tremendous difference in your team pulling together in this time. And your team is what's going to grow your practice as much as you, and they are your greatest marketing tool. So those would be my parting thoughts.
Awesome. I just wrote that down. Positivity is more infectious than COVID. So we're going to use that. Great advice. So anybody want to get in touch with you or reach out or learn about books, what you're doing right now, where could they do that?
Go to fredjoyal.com.
Okay.
Is the easiest place to find everything. I've got video courses on social media and just creating the remarkable practice. The books are available on Amazon, on Kindle and Audible. If you want to actually buy the books, it's better to go to my website and buy them because they show up faster.
Okay.
Because Amazon has to go through my printing house to get the books, and it ends up taking 3 weeks or something like that. I'll have information there about telehealth, that they can access, what I think is a great system. I'm actually going to put up my marketing assessment tool, and then they'll also be able to find out about the certification for patient safety. That's going to get up there in the next week or so. So, and if they really want my help personally, just write to fred@fredjoyal.com.
Awesome. And I'm going to put I'm also going to put those links in the show notes here, and I will make sure we stay sort of updated and connected on the patient safety accreditation, I guess, or what you're doing, so that we can share that out when it's finalized. So good. Well, Fred, I appreciate you coming on. I know it's your time is very valuable, and you've been a longtime friend of the Profitable Dentist magazine. We were talking earlier about your brother Ron, good guy. We appreciate all the contributions you've made over the years. You really are the guy who formalized the idea of marketing your practice in a way that I think most practice owners understood finally, and the ones who thrived, I think, would say that you were a big influence on them.
Well, the industry has been very good to me, and it gives me great pleasure to help doctors out, especially as they are in times of struggle like this. So I'm just paying back a very rewarding life right now. So thank you for giving me the opportunity to do that today.
Well, I appreciate it. So practice owners, with that, we're going to wrap this one up. Coming back stronger, Fred Joyal, 1-800-DENTIST, fredjoyal.com. And I think I'm pretty confident in saying anybody who goes and checks out Fred's stuff will be very, very surprised and pleased at what they find there. So with that, Fred, hang in there, and we'll see you soon.
Take care, Steve.
All right.